AC on. Let's just get that clear right now. It is 78 degrees. That is too hot. We got to go colder. Can we confirm this? Am I actually live? It says 0 people are in here, so I'm a little hesitant to buy into it until I see a comment or two. Yeah, like I totally don't believe that we're live. I'm gonna double check on the computer. I know it would make a lot of sense for me to be. Okay, well, I mean, that's one comment. If I can see it on my computer, then I'll believe it. You might be wondering, like, why are you not going live on your computer? Yeah, there it is. 1 watching. How is it 1 watching? We just went live. 1 watching? No, there's like a zillion people in the comments. Okay, it's not 1. All right, 243. That's good enough. Okay. Normally, I would wait till the Tuesday show to talk about this, but I just figured I would jump in here and just, advance the narrative along. Number 1, Adam, why do you have a red lobster tattoo on your forehead? I was just at this event, and they were giving out free airbrush tattoos, and it seemed fun in the moment. Whatever. Anyway, I haven't seen this whole Sharp live that is being spoke about, but I am aware of the clips that have been posted on the Reddit, and there are 2 very specific claims that I would love to talk about. So we're going to talk about them right now. Number 1, Sharp said that I gave up on him and that I only want yes men around me, etc. Let me speak about that. Let me just go through Sharp's trajectory on No Jumper. He did a Software Underbelly interview, and it was popular at the time. It had probably done at least 1 million views. Somebody told me, hey, you should interview this guy. I reach out, we do an interview. I think to this day it has 2 million views, right? So there's that. That did well. This was right around the time I think that it became clear to us oh, AD is popular on the channel. AD is doing well. So I'm kind of thinking I need to find more hosts. It would be great to find another host. I think maybe even T-Row was on the channel by this point. So I figured, all right, cool. We're gonna bring Sharp in the channel. I'm gonna try him out. I told him, we got to get you talking to girls. That's what's gonna work. Because you talking to me and Mark from Software Underbelly, that's cool. But that's not, that's not the craziest shit on earth. But you talking to girls, since obviously with the whole pimp thing, I knew right away that was it. So bring him on the channel, start lining up different adult stars and some other girls or whatever, and pretty quickly through the roof. Now, granted, this is pandemic times where everybody was kind of through the roof. So regardless, when are you not producing? What's the point? Keeping you. That's a strange comment. I feel like I'm on TikTok. Anyway, all right. So I'm going to try to actually get through this quickly.
What's your...
Okay, so we started getting them on with a bunch of girls, right? And they're doing really well. And that was good. That was cool. We're making money. And pretty quickly, I think it might have been Sharp's first interview with a girl. Boom. It's fucking getting I think it might have made $15,000 in the first week or something like that. So it became clear pretty quickly, okay, we're not going to be giving Sharp a couple $100 an interview. We're going to have to split the money up to some point. Now, what was our split? None of your business. Don't worry about it, guys. But that was what we were doing, and it worked. Now, at no point during Sharp's time on the channel has it ever been discussed the idea that Sharp would be on the No Jumper show, on the Tuesday show. That was never discussed. And then even beyond that, it was never discussed that he would start his own weekly podcast, right? We never got into that. That never really came up. So Sharp's doing his thing, the years go by, and as time goes by, I think he starts to become more and more self-conscious because he's reading the chat, he's reading the comments, and the comments are kind of saying, hey, this guy only can do one thing. This guy can only scream at fucking at girls, and that's not necessarily entertaining in the long run, right? That makes sense. So I think Sharp starts trying to like broaden his skills. And I shouldn't even act like he wasn't doing that from the beginning, because obviously he was talking to other pimps. He's talking to rappers. He's talking to a decent variety of people. But obviously the shit that's going viral is the girls. So that was like the first couple years. Then AD, T-Rail, Duno, etc. They all leave at the same time, right? So that happened. And Sharp stuck around. And, obviously I'm happy to have him on the channel and everything. But to be honest, by that point, he had already kind of found himself in the same position that he's in right now, where the views are not really coming in the same way that they used to. Now, I'm not hating on him for that. I'm not getting on his ass. I'm not telling him like, hey, Sharp, you need to start yelling at these bitches, whatever. I'm just leaving it alone, because I figured like this is his path to figure out. Now, obviously, if he's getting millions of views screaming at girls or whatever, that would be great from my perspective. Money's always nice. But if he doesn't want to do that, if he feels like that's kind of just lame at this point, whatever, then I guess that's probably, that's fair. Like, I'm not going to try to convince him to do another kind of content if he's not comfortable with it, right? So that's pretty much it. Like, that's what he's been doing. Now, I do want to mention also, holy shit, $50 donation. Shout out Red Lobster, SETI2 Fly. Wow. Nice to have you here. I mean, I feel like people are so much more likely to donate when you're like looking directly into the camera like this, as opposed to doing a regular podcast, whatever. But that was basically like the whole thing. Like, we never talked about Sharp having like a weekly show. Like, he came on the No Jumper show like a couple times around that period. And it just like, like as a conversationalist, like I fuck with him as a person, but me and Sharp are so different. Like, I've never been around the pimp shit. I've never been exposed to that shit. That's never been anything that I've been around. It's like totally fucking foreign to me. And I know you guys are going to say, Adam, you're a porn star and you've got all these hoes or whatever. Like, okay, I get you. But, in terms of like having a bitch walk the fucking stroll, it's not, I don't know anything about that world. I don't know, a lot of it is very foreign to me. And even beyond that, just like as a conversationalist, like he's cool, but he's not like my number one dude that I would want to have a conversation with every Tuesday, right? But I mean, we never even got to the point of having that conversation. But, and to be honest, there were a few like meetings where we tried to tell Sharp why things maybe were not going so great and tried to really get some feedback about what we could work on and everything. But it's kind of like talking to a wall. And you guys who watch them could probably put it together. You could probably like guess what that was like, right? It was just kind of, there's a lot of blaming other people. It's a lot of sort of like, it's just a lot of shit, it's not really like, it just didn't seem like he was willing to really like take accountability or like change. He basically just like was of the opinion that it couldn't possibly be that he needed to change himself or what he was doing. And it just, I kind of got frustrated from like doing those meetings and shit, because it just didn't really seem like he was willing to really be like real about shit. So I just kind of went hands off. And that's how it's been for like the past like 6 months, 8 months, whatever it's been. It's been a while since I even like had a conversation. Shout out Gunner. $10? What the fuck? You work at the store. You're not allowed to give me $10. I'm going to give you $10 when I see you. I'm actually going to give you $7 because YouTube takes their cut. But I just been letting him do his thing. And today was when I found out that he like apparently feels like I, solely want to surround myself with yes men and everything like that. Okay, this is my rebuttal to that. I do a podcast with Whack every week. Whack is one of the most frustrating fucking people on earth to have a conversation with. And all the time on the podcast, I bring shit up that I think Whack's just going to agree with and that we're going to be able to have a conversation about. And then I quickly realize, like, oh my God, Whack is going to argue with me about this. Even though 3 seconds ago, I had no idea that anybody could actually want to argue about this with me. Wack is the most argumentative person I've probably ever been on the podcast with, maybe short of Dame Dash. Dame Dash was probably worse than Wack, but I love Wack, and I love doing content with Wack because he's just like a great conversationalist and he's fun. So the idea that I only want to be around yes men, I disagree with that. And I understand the criticism of Brick and Lush when people say that they're a little too yes man-y. And I've kind of like brought this conversation up on the podcast in the last few weeks, where I want them to like challenge shit more, and I want them to have their own opinions more. And they can tell you that like even in the last like week, I've been in the group chat saying like the best thing for the podcast is like come in with your own developed takes about shit, like shit that you feel strongly about, that you want to argue about, and bring it to the podcast. And you know, I think that's why even in the last week, I've seen a little bit more of it. I've seen Lush come and he said like, hey, do you think that TDE is gatekeeping conscious hip hop? That's good podding. You might not agree with it, but that's good podding because that's like a controversial take that, you know, people are going to feel strongly about one way or another. You know, I'm not trying to have, God, these donations are coming in. Yes, man, it's a nay from me, church. Oh, that's Lush. Fuck you, Lush. Julian Chung, Cheddar Bay Gang. Is that Julian of Channel 5? Well, I actually have like homies in here. That's weird. Like my actual friends are in here. Look at the last 3 donations. Gunner, Julian, and Lush. That's insane. Anyway, all I'm saying is like, if I had to identify a problem with the No Jumper show right now, I would honestly say that one of the main problems is that there's just not enough like aggression. You know, it's like me, Lush, and Brick are actually all good friends and like to talk to each other, which sounds like it would be a good recipe for a podcast. And I do feel like it is. Like if you watch the most recent episode of the No Jumper show, I feel like we just had a great ass conversation. And you know, that's not always going to get the most attention when you just have like a good 4-hour conversation, right? I do think that like if we were going to add somebody, I would want it to be somebody who was a little bit more inflammatory. You know, like sometimes like the best moments of me, AD, and House Phone were pretty much just screaming at each other, right? Like us not agreeing on shit at the very least. What the fuck? The broom fell. Okay, that actually made me jump out of my fucking skin. So, you know, as far as like Sharp being part of it, I just never really thought about it, to be totally honest, because I never really enjoyed talking to him like on a podcast that much, okay? It's just not like, you know, he's cool to talk to, but at the same time, it's just the conversation gets sent in like weird directions. It doesn't necessarily stay on topic. It's just, I don't know. I mean, you can tell me if you think the Sharp should have been added to the Tuesday show. Nowhere ever along the way did I ever see anybody telling me the Sharp needed to be added to the Tuesday show, right? Like that was never like some big narrative, right? I never remember the fans saying that. And for me, I never really even thought about it that much, to be honest. It like briefly crossed my mind, only because somebody else who works in No Jumper mentioned that Sharp said something about how he thought that he was going to basically like earn his way onto the Tuesday show. I never thought of it that way. For me, with the Tuesday show, I've always just been trying to like shape cast that I felt like could have really, really good conversations on a consistent basis, right? And you know, we're still working on it, but I do think that we've come a long way. So as far as Sharp feeling like I'm stalling him out, like, bro, you're doing the same exact shit. You were doing the same, like, you're just doing interviews with people, which is the same shit I'm doing. I didn't leave you out to dry, bro. Like, you've been doing the same thing. Like, maybe me not being involved has kind of like left you feeling like I could have done more to develop your shit or whatever. But I'm going to be real. Like, I sat down with you like a couple different times and tried to like give you advice and coach you through podcasting shit. And instead his attitude was basically just that like shit was fine and that everybody else needed to change. And maybe it's because so-and-so isn't helping him get enough interviews or whatever. Oh yeah, and I remember what I want to say though. I was like, at some point, I think maybe like 6 months or 4 months or something after AD and T-Rel and them all left, Snakegate as I've called it, Sharp started talking about how he wanted to move to LA. And so I'm like, okay, let's give this a try. We're going to give Sharp X amount of dollars as opposed to just a pure profit split. We're going to give him X amount of dollars so that he can move out to LA and that it'll make sense for him to be out here. And I'm kind of thinking like this is like a pretty good idea. I'm thinking at the time this is a good idea because I'm thinking Sharp's going to be going to all the parties. He's going to be meeting all the people. He's going to be out there in the field acting as like a representative of No Jumper and then sort of like bringing guests back to No Jumper, which is great because for me, it's like I'm old as fuck. I'm 40 years old. I tend to stay home on the weekends. I tend to just kick it with my wife and my kid. And on the weekdays, I don't really stay out late that much because usually I'm like just working all day and then I gotta be up early in the morning to work out. I'm doing the porn shit as well. It's like I got a million fucking things going on. So I'm thinking like this would be good because Sharp will actually be able to be like outside making shit happen, right? And, I don't know, like maybe he has been doing that and I just don't know about it. But for the most part, that hasn't really happened, right? So like we paid him, I think, for like a year, like a set monthly amount, right? And at some point when we stopped doing the news, I had to kind of pull that back, right? Because it's like you're not doing consistent content on the channel anymore. You're just doing the podcast. With us taking the news away, that's like 10 podcast appearances a month that you're not going to be doing. So we cut back that monthly amount. I get the idea that he didn't really care for that decision too much, which I get. But it's like ultimately, we gave Sharp free reign to do whatever the fuck he wanted on the channel. He could have done anything. Look at these donuts coming in. Poop sent $20. We spend money because we can, and you read it because you SRD. Wow, okay. We spend money because we can, and you read it because you SRD. That's strange. SETI too fly. You a legend, Adam. Much respect to what you built with No Jumper. Also, your wife's an absolute babe. I really hope to meet you someday. Wow, thank you, SETI. I appreciate that, man. That's dope. I actually met like a shitload of fans tonight at this fucking food event that we went to too. So that was cool. To just like, I also met what's his name? Seth Rogen. Anyway, so that's where we've been at. I felt like a little bit of annoyance coming from Sharp ever since we took that money away per month or whatever. But it's like ultimately like, he's just had a lot of time to like develop consistent content or anything that works on the channel. And we just haven't really, if anything, we've gotten away from that. Like, and I even, Remo told me that he talked to him a couple weeks ago and told him like, bro, there's nothing wrong. And I think this is a reiteration of what academics had told him, but basically like there's nothing wrong with just having one thing that you're good at and just running it into the ground. I mean, if you look at whatever, Fresh and Fit, that's what they do. They bring girls on, they make crazy ass content. Granted, like, are they still as popular as they used to be? I'm not so sure, but I mean, they seem like they do all right. And I think Remo gave him that advice recently, and he actually seemed like he was going to take it, but then, I don't know, now this. So, from my perspective, in terms of like what I'm doing with Sharp, what I've been doing the last couple weeks or the last couple months is exactly the same as what I did during the first couple months or what I did during the first year in which his shit was really blowing up, which is not a lot. It's like I occasionally I would reach out to a girl to help get, oh, you want to interview this girl? I know her. I'm going to DM her. I'm going to get you on there. Boom. Cool. A few things like that, but not a ton, It's like, for the most part, he was finding a lot of those girls himself and doing the content with them without my interaction. Really, if you want to look at the interviews that Sharp has done over the years, almost none of them have involved me in any way. So I don't understand how I switched up when I'm just as uninvolved as I always was, So yeah. There's that part. Like, I just don't understand how I like left him out to dry or whatever the fuck he said. Like, I just don't think I did that. I think that if anything, I have been doing the same thing I've always been doing, which is just letting him do content on the platform. And if he wants to go do content on some other platform, I've always made it clear it's cool. Like, I'm not going to hold that against you. If you want, like, he starts doing streams in his own house, boom, I don't care. Do it. It's cool. I think at one point we maybe had, I think Josh might have said something one time about just basically like doing all No Jumper drama in the thumbnails and shit like that. I think Josh might have said something to him one time about that, which was definitely the result of me mentioning it to Josh. But, whatever. Somebody said, Sharp said you were the only one who put him on. I don't think, did he say that? Because it's like he had his whole pimp life before me. And if anything, like Mark from Softwood Underbelly probably put him on more, at first. And then I put him on the channel. But again, bro, like I got nothing against Sharp. And I always felt, this is the thing that pisses me off. I always felt like if me and Sharp went our own separate ways, that we would just be able to be cool about it and that there was no reason for us to hate on each other or anything. Like if this relationship ceased to be beneficial, then you could just go your separate way and I could keep doing my thing and it's all good. And really, that's how I felt about AD and T-Rell and all them that didn't really end up like that, which was I put y'all on, I put y'all in position, and if you want to go do your own thing at some point, that's cool. I'm not going to ever like hold that against you. I recognize that in this content space, people are going to want to create their own platforms and everything like that. And I'm not trying to like hold anybody back because I think ultimately holding people back this is not really going to work that much. Like I could put you on contract that will hold you back just because for this period of time, you're exclusive to No Jumper or whatever. Interested in another Software Underbelly interviewee. I mean, honestly, they run the gamut from like really interesting to really gross to whatever. So I don't know about that, but I never thought me and Sharp would talk shit about each other publicly. I always thought that he would just like be real enough to hold it down and just not feel the need to do that because I've never done anything to like take away from his shit. And but you want to know what it is? You want to know what it is? Oh, actually, I can say this. I don't want to like big up people too much, but there's some YouTube channel I watched it. He did like a half-hour video about Sharp, and like a lot of it was probably like pretty true. But like certain parts of it were kind of like not that true in the sense of like they made it out like I put AJ from Menace Material on the podcast to like fuck with Sharp when in reality like I invited AJ on the news just because I fuck with AJ and I think AJ is like a really really talented broadcaster and if he lived in Southern California I would probably have him on the No Jumper show or some shit, like he's just somebody I fuck with and I wanted to have him on the news just to be on the news. I didn't even really know. I don't think I really knew that he didn't like Sharp or that he had any kind of venom for Sharp. Keep in mind, people were saying the same thing about Dejan. They were saying, oh, Adam only put Menace Material or only put AJ on the news to fuck with Dejan. This like, what the fuck do I care? I don't know, man. But either way, it's not like that. Like that's just a total cap narrative. The idea that I fucking was like sending mercenaries to like get at Sharp to punish him. Like if I was really mad at him, I would have just said, bro, I don't really think you should be on the channel anymore. Or I would have just shut it down in some like, straightforward way. I wouldn't like do all these devious little things to get at him. I don't really like think that deeply about, stuff like who's on the news together. Like I never even chose that AJ was going to be on the news with Sharp. All I did was put AJ in a group chat with Josh and say, hey, Josh, this is AJ. You should get him on the news at some point. And then Josh ended up putting them on the news. And I guarantee that Josh doesn't pay enough attention to fucking know that AJ and Sharp had smoke or that AJ had opinions about Sharp or whatever. It's just like, there's some fake narratives out there. And I feel like Sharp just like falls for them. I feel like he watches these YouTube videos and he doesn't really have the like confidence to realize that the narratives are fake and that people are just making shit up and and I can't even hold it against them. Like, yeah, that's what you do. You're a YouTuber. You see all these little pieces and you try to thread them all together and you try to make a narrative out of it. I fucking get it, bro. It's totally fine. But I never did anything to go at Sharp. So this little like temper tantrum rant thing, whatever he did today, I don't really respect it. But let me also just comment on the girl thing because I think that's probably the thing that people found the most interesting. Sharp said that he can tell that I talk bad about him to Lena because when he would see Lena in the workplace, he could tell that she thought that she was better than him. Ooh, okay, let's talk about that. This pisses me the fuck off because do you know how many times? Now, first off, some of you guys think Lena's like crazy. She's a porn star or whatever. Lena is the most tame, normal fucking girl on the face of the earth. And many times I had to sit there when she had a complaint about something with Sharp, and I had to sit there and I had to explain to her, listen, I'm not from the pimp world, but I understand that it works like this. So let's talk about it. This is the thing. This is why it's not that big a deal. This is why Sharp didn't mean what he meant when he said this. Me trying to explain it to her. Do I have to do this for other people sometimes? Yes, because Lena also doesn't understand like the gang shit. So sometimes I'll have to explain like, yes, Brick had the whoop-de-whoop in the spot. And yeah, I know it's kind of inappropriate to have the whoop-de-whoop in the spot, but hey, man, that's how he's living. This is a gang thing. It's different shit. You know, it's like same with Sharp. It's like the pimp shit. Yeah, he said this to this one girl. You got to understand, this is not our culture, so we got to kind of like take a step back and just like acknowledge that it is what it is, right? So that's me spending some significant percentage of my life defending Sharp to Lena. Why does Lena feel some type of way? He's not wrong. He's not wrong that Lena definitely probably feels some type of way about him. You want to know why? Ooh, this is the juicy part. Because there's been multiple times where Sharp, arguably under the influence of alcohol, at noon, at 1, at 2 p.m., whatever, when we're filming Plug Talk episodes at the office, there's been a couple different times where the girls who work for Plug Talk have had some shit said to them by him that was inappropriate, that was not great, that we didn't like. Those girls who work for Plug Talk, you know how you guys, right now you're thinking like, who? Yeah. I don't even put them on Front Street like that. We don't even really talk about them. We tag them and shit. One of them doesn't even have an Instagram. But we love them. They're amazing. They're so great as workers and shit. They're fantastic. And I want nothing but respect to be coming towards them at any given time. Because they're just girls with jobs and they don't need to fucking get made fun of, or not made fun of. They don't need to get hit on. They don't need somebody to use the B word towards them. They don't need anyone giving them a hard time. This is a workplace. And I understand that to a random ass hoe, you could talk to them a certain way. And maybe in another situation, you might run into these girls and talk to them a certain type of way. And maybe they'll like it. I don't fucking know. But either way, it's not appropriate for the workplace. And I believe that point has kind of been made to Sharp, like probably not from me, but from, Josh or Laura or whoever. I feel like people have probably like mentioned this to him, that it's like, there's just a way that you don't act in the workplace. And that is aggressive towards girls with that kind of energy, whatever. I think that like, there was probably other incidents as well. And Lena don't fuck around with that shit. Like, she don't want anybody being disrespectful to her girls. And me too. I feel the same way. And in addition to that, like, some of these girls that he's screamed at on the podcast over the years are also her homies. They're people that she fucks with that are in the same industry as her, porn star girls. And so there's never really been a time where like some girl was really mad at me and Lena over something that Sharp said to them. But there was definitely times where it felt like it was going to go in that direction because he was just kind of wilding too hard to the point where it might have like kind of made us look bad or whatever. But it never even really got to some crazy extent, right? But it definitely was not something we approved of when it came to saying shit to the girls who work in the office, right? On the Plug Talk side. That's the only thing that I believe would make Lena feel any kind of way towards Sharp. It's just the fact that she doesn't fuck with like dudes being disrespectful to girls in the first place. She's very girl power. She's very like, she supports the girls. She doesn't really, whatever guys are doing is kind of water under the bridge to her as long as the girls are being respected. And that's it, honestly. Like, if she ever felt like a way towards him or ever like in any way sort of acted as if she didn't care for Sharp or didn't like him too much, it was 100% that and nothing else. It's not like, you think I'm just laying around pillow talking to her and making her hate you? Like, I don't come home from work and talk about no jumper drama with her. There's so much no jumper drama that she has no idea about. And every once in a while, she'll like go look at the Reddit and she'll hit me up and be like, what about this thing? Like this person said this to this person. I'm like, yeah. I just don't want to, this is why. I don't want to be in the office all day where I like talk about a lot of these things on camera. I don't want to like come home and then have to talk about it again. Why would I want to do that? So I don't like fill her in. Like any Sharp drama over the last year, for sure she has no idea. I just don't mention it. So the idea that I'm like pillow talking and shitting on him to her is crazy. And the idea that like Sharp at one point was supposed to be on the No Jumper show and he's not because I only want yes men around me or whatever the fuck that narrative was. These are just cap narratives that are just made up out of thin air. And I don't understand where they come from besides the fact that it feels like Sharp's just kind of unhappy in life maybe right now, that he's just like not really feeling how things are going. And he's just like getting on stream and smoking a million cigarettes and just talking a bunch of shit. And I get that. That's cool, man. Like, I'm not mad at you about that. That's one way to go about things, but leave me the fuck out of it, because I only ever have done things to support Sharp and to like put him on. And so if you're gonna come and like come up with made up fake fucking narratives about how my girl secretly hates you because of something that I said to her, which again, no evidence for that. That's completely made up. And then on the other hand, you know, the other narrative of like, you know, the idea that like, he said like I didn't have the balls to have the conversation with him about how I was trying to stop his motion. Again, just totally made up. Like my contribution to your career in the last 6 months has been exactly the same as the contribution in the first 6 months. So the part that like everybody would agree was like good for Sharp on the channel the first year has been exactly the same as the last year. So from my perspective. So I guess I just wanted to air that out. Who knows what percentage of this will make it to the Reddit, which is the only place realistically that I'll see any kind of commentary about it. Look at this guy, the Prasad family. I'm gonna hide you, you fucking cunt. How dare you be verified and talk shit? Anyway, that's pretty much it. I feel like the channel's in a good spot. I feel like the Tuesday show is solid. The Whack Pod is stupendous. The interviews, we've been holding it down, doing a shitload of them. Some of them do great, some of them don't do that great. It is what it is. I'm still doing the same thing I've been doing for like approximately 10 years. Keep in mind, I've been doing this for a long time. As far as like building up new hosts, I'm a little less motivated than I used to be. You know, had a lot of hosts that I brought on that I thought were going to do great, and they didn't. And, you know, the business is just a lot more competitive than it used to be. So will we ever see a Glory Days No Jumper version of ourselves where we have, you know, a Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday show, and maybe even a Monday show? I don't know, man. Like, maybe, but at this point in time, it's not exactly like a huge focus. I feel like just doing like a couple of pods plus the interviews per week is just fine by me. Currently, we have 3 pods, Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday, and then all the interviews. I feel like that's pretty good. Now, beyond that, would it be cool to like bring the news back and do a couple episodes of the news per week? Yeah, I mean, for sure, but it's also not like the biggest concern from my perspective. So I will not be commenting on anything about drinking pee or sex dolls or whatever people in the chat right now are trying to tell me to talk about. None of that is my concern at all. Although I am curious, like all of you, but I don't know. Anyway, thank you to anyone who watched this. Poop said, let's rap. Yeah, maybe not now. But 3,000 people watching on a, what is it, Saturday night? That's pretty good, I guess. Anyway, appreciate you guys. Again, never thought that I would be having any kind of like, you know, beef with Sharp or whatever. Like he definitely